Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Say what? Say what? Say what? One more time.
And now it is time for our signature segment, Say What, where we roll out a virtual assembly line of wacky, astonishing, damnable, and ultimately revealing things uttered by politicians and the chattering class. There's little question that race has played a major role in this presidential race, from the selection of Kamala Harris for purposes of checking all the identity politics boxes, despite her own dismal failure as a presidential candidate in her own right, to the persistent theme of racism and victimhood, which was the foundation of the Democrats' message in their convention, the unfairness of the country. Hardly atypical as a message from the left, but this time amplified as never before. For all the talk of the personalities and the speeches and predictable posturing, there's much to be learned from what the Democrats didn't say. Democrats never once mentioned two of our great American cities that are being burned to the ground by radicals. Not once did they even acknowledge, not to mention provide a solution for, the ongoing meltdown of Portland and Seattle and a mess of other cities, starting with New York, where a virtual evacuation is underway after unchecked violence followed a COVID wave that hit the nation's largest and once greatest city harder than any other. But the Democrat convention is behind us, the Republican convention coming in this next week. So let's drill down on what we've learned to date, with 2.5 months before the election on November 3rd. One of the questions is whether Kamala Harris is authentic or sincere, because this is a woman a majority of voters believe will become president without getting elected, because Joe Biden is feeble and everybody knows it. Authentic or sincere? Now, Kamala seemed to be neither in her own campaign, which is why she bombed out early, but she made one big splash for a minute by attacking the man who just picked her as his running mate, Joe Biden, essentially calling him a racist because he opposed forced busing in the 1970s and hung out with some Southern senators considered racists. But when she was asked about that moment by Stephen Colbert on the CBS Late Show, listen to how she sloughed off her newfound respect for the former vice president.
How do you go from being such a passionate opponent on such bedrock principles for you, and now you guys seem to be pals?
It was a debate.
Not everybody landed punches like you did, though.
It was a debate.
So you don't mean it?
It was a debate. That the whole reason, literally, it was a debate.
So Kamala Harris is actually showing off her insincerity there, her shallowness, her opportunism. Hey, that was just a debate. 4 times there she said it. Come on, I didn't really mean what I said. Pardon me, but isn't that exactly what Americans can't stand about career politicians? Here's another takeaway. Kamala Harris was picked not for black votes, but as we've said here since Senator Harris was chosen, for those white suburban women who want to signal their virtue by voting for a woman of color for vice president. But those same women want low taxes and most of all security. Polls have shown that for years. Can those white suburban women really feel safe and secure when they see what's going on in more than 24 Democrat-controlled cities, foremost among them Portland, Seattle, and ground zero for the insurrection, Minneapolis, where a Democrat nominee for a state house seat, John Thompson, brought a mob of angry radicals to the doorstep of innocent white homeowners in a Minneapolis suburb and shouted frightening, hateful, anti-white slurs over a sound system threatening to take these people out. Just listen.
Skin on me. I'm a black man being terrorized by this president right here. We are terrorized are the Grand Wizard. Y'all got the Grand Wizard living in your goddamn neighborhood. All the clan exists in Hugo, Minnesota, and it's right here. Don't run now. Don't run now, racist white people. I'm here. Oh, yeah, we pull up. We pull the up. And we're here. Come on over here with your Blue Lives Matter sign. Blue Lives ain't shit. And if people in Hugo don't support black people, Hugo, Minnesota. I meant to say that.
That is so appalling, chilling, I debated whether to play it for you. But it's necessary for people to hear what's really going on, as opposed to what they're hearing or not hearing from the Trump-deranged big corporate media. Is this what those white suburban women who think Trump is déclassé want closing in on their comfortable suburban homes? Because rest assured, this type of menacing, threatening behavior will become the norm if Democrats control the country as they have every one of our great cities that are now on fire. Democrats have already proven that at best they can't control the violence, and at worst, they don't want to. And you know what's actually most disgusting about it? Virtually every person surrounding and supporting that vile, hate-filled, race-baiting agitator was white. In fact, the most remarkable thing about this whole insurrection is the number of white people anxious to publicly shame themselves and hate their own whiteness and their very heritage that's given them life and liberty. But then, given how they've been taught to hate the country by neo-Marxist college professors and the elite media, maybe we shouldn't be surprised. But an issue Democrats avoided like the plague in their own convention was the abject failure of their urban leadership over decades. But rest assured, Trump and his colleagues will make a major issue of it this coming week. And then there are black Republicans challenging Democrats in House seats in cities run by Democrats for decades. This week, Kim Klacik, trying to win a seat in the inner city district of Baltimore, drew a lot of attention for this ad taped as she walked through the ruinous conditions of a Baltimore street.
Do you care about black lives? The people that run Baltimore don't. I can prove it. Walk with me. They don't want you to see this. This is the reality for black people every single day. Crumbling infrastructure, abandoned homes, poverty, and crime. Baltimore has been run by the Democrat Party for 53 years. What is the result of their decades of leadership? Baltimore is one of the top 5 most dangerous cities in America. The murder rate in Baltimore is 10 times the U.S. average. Homicide, drug, and alcohol deaths are skyrocketing in our city. It's not just Baltimore. The worst place for a black person to live in America is a Democrat-controlled city.
You can be sure that woman will be attacked as a tool of the white racist establishment, but it demonstrates that serious change is brewing among black Americans, and not just because George Floyd was killed. Black people have seen the response of the Democrats they've elected for years, and they see as never before the wreck and ruin of Democrat-run cities across the land. And they've seen the jobs generated under this administration and the unprecedented effort by a Republican, Donald Trump, to win more and more black votes. Expect a reckoning of some kind among black voters on November 3rd. We just don't yet know what kind of reckoning. Now, you'd think after the failed Russia collusion hoax and the failed impeachment and the failed attempts to take down Trump through people like Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, and Michael Avenatti, remember them? That the left would tamp down the insane conspiracy theories at least a bit. Far from it. They came up with a new one this week, as dutifully reported by their sycophants in the elite media.
Essential sorting machines removed, blue mailboxes literally hauled away on flatbed trucks.
Mailboxes being picked up and stacked up. What's that about other than voter suppression?
They're seeing some of their mailboxes in their communities uprooted That's a problem.
People are worried about the post office. You're seeing, the mailboxes being taken away. Can we vote? What's going on?
The removal of mailboxes, the removal of equipment within the postal offices and the rest is to undermine the Postal Service at a time when the Postal Service is needed now more than ever.
The last speaker there was Nancy Pelosi, who actually called the House of Representatives back for a rare August session to deal with this dreadful crisis brought on by the evil orange man as usual, even though there is absolutely no evidence, repeat, no evidence that Trump is sending out vigilantes to rip out mailboxes. Fact is, mailboxes are disappearing all the time because we get less mail than we used to, so the Postal Service takes some out because they're not necessary. But the Democrats thought this would make terrific political theater, so what the hell? They've tried every other way to get rid of Trump. Why not a postal crisis?